I'm coming on here to give my thoughts on the Monday Night Wars last night between WWE Raw versus TNA Impact, and which one of those shows did you enjoy the most? Out of the two shows, myself, I enjoyed TNA Impact just a little more than WWE Monday Night Raw. Well, not even just a little more than WWE Monday Night Raw. It was easily the better show of the two. Now, obviously, WWE, you could tell they weren't really even trying to put on that much of a superior show than TNA Impact. Now, this is going to be interesting. Like, if they do this a couple more times and WWE starts to get a little worried about TNA at some point down the line in the near future, it'd be interesting to see, what will WWE put on when they actually feel like they got competition against each other. Now, TNA, I felt, did a good job on Monday night because I think they put on the better show of the two. And I think they did some stuff that a lot of people will be talking about for the rest of the week, whereas WWE, the Bret Hart stuff was good, but I thought it was, even myself, I thought it was a tad bit disappointing, even though a lot of people are raving about it and think it is one of the greatest things ever, which I didn't see that much in it. I thought it was decent at best. Now, let me get on to TNA Impact and kind of, do a quick run through of TNA Impact. Now, the beginning of the show started with a Steel Asylum match with 8 X Division competitors in there. And this match, this was the worst decision to start this off with, not because of a Steel Asylum match, but the ending of the match. This match ends in disqualification. So you start your program off with ending in a disqualification here. Homicide gets DQ'd. And then after this kind of helps save it a little bit. You see Jeff Hardy debut. And the only thing that could have been a little better here was Jeff Hardy's debut or re-debut with TNA. Should have been a little more better built up than what it was. It was pretty much Mike Today and Taz pretty much didn't make even a big deal about Jeff Hardy debuting for TNA, which doesn't make any sense at all, especially since Jeff Hardy, even though I'm not the biggest Jeff Hardy fan, I'll even admit Jeff Hardy is one of the biggest draws in wrestling today. Some people could argue that he's as marketable, if not sometimes more marketable than even John Cena. So TNA getting Jeff Hardy, this is a very big thing for TNA, and they definitely need to do a good job with this because Jeff Hardy could possibly be that star that TNA needs to catapult them to compete against WWE. Now, you got Hogan on here, obviously. Now, Hogan's name is obviously bigger than Jeff Hardy, but as far as marketability, as far as where they are now in 2010, Jeff Hardy is easily the bigger star out of the two as far as marketability and what they can draw for an organization, at least in my opinion. Now, the first hour of this Impact, now I forgot to say this at first, but the first hour of this Impact was pretty horrendous. It was pretty terrible. Now, the 2 hours that were pitted against Monday Night Raw were very good. I did enjoy those 2 hours. The first hour, I think they could have did a better job of, showcasing a product that was different than WWE and doing some things that will keep people's attention, because really, if there was another wrestling program on, I think some people might have switched and tuned to WWE Monday Night Raw. As bad as Raw has been, that was how bad the first hour was. And it was pretty much just nothing much at all. The next matchup was ODB and Terra. This was for the TNA Knockouts Championship, and this was just a quick 2 to 3 minute match. ODB wins with a roll-up and holding the tights from Terra, so Terra has another short women's title in TNA, which doesn't make any sense. Why do you want to do that to her? And then after this, they go backstage, and you see, not backstage, but go out in the parking lot, you see a limo, and Ric Flair comes out the limo. So already, like within the first 30 to 40 minutes of TNA, you see Jeff Hardy and Ric Flair. So that was probably the most memorable things of the first hour. Those are the only two things I think would have kept people tuned in to TNA. The first hour was Jeff Hardy debuting and Ric Flair, because a lot of casual fans be like, whoa, Jeff Hardy debuted, Ric Flair debuted, what's going to happen next? And I think that's what the first hour kind of did, was kind of, showed them to wanted to, pretty much look like, anything could happen tonight. And it was kind of built more up to, I think a lot of casual fans might have enjoyed the first hour more than most people, but it was kind of bad starting off with a, gimmick match ending in disqualification. Not only that, even the TNA fans were chanting, "This is bullshit, this is bullshit." And then after this, you see Sean Waltman and Scott Hall. You see them coming in there, coming through the crowd, and they're in the crowd. Then Hogan comes out there, debut. You see Hogan's debut. Then you see Hall and Waltman come in the ring. Then you see Kevin Nash and Eric Bischoff in the ring, and pretty much during this, Eric Bischoff and Hogan are putting over the younger stars, and it's pretty much saying that everything's going to be shaked up around here. You're going to see a new TNA. Everything's going to change for the better, and we're going to make TNA the #1 promotion. That was pretty much the easiest way to summarize what they said there with that. And I guess what they're going to do with Hogan is they're going to kind of have him in the role of kind of a general manager, and what they're going to do is, he's got his old NWO buddies, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Sean Waltman, and all that, and he's going to be kind of split, like, what side is he going to be on? Does he want to, help TNA grow as an organization? Does he want to help the younger guys, or does he want to be there for the, old veterans? What side does he want to be on? That's probably what they'll do with Hogan in TNA. And it was kind of cool seeing, at the 9 o'clock hour, you saw on Monday Night Raw, because I was flipping back and forth the whole entire night, but mainly I watched TNA Impact. That was the show I mainly watched most of the time, the whole entire time. I actually probably almost like 80-85% of the time I was watching TNA Impact. Really, the only time I switched over was, like, say if there was, like, an entrance or something, and I just didn't feel like, caring about seeing someone just come to the ring, switch over to Monday Night Raw, or commercials on Spike TV. That was the only thing, like, really that was a really complaint, other than the first hour Impact, which could have been booked better, was there was tons of commercials on TNA Impact, but I felt they were probably doing this to kind of make sure they, when WWE had commercials, that they would have action on their show and kind of compete against WWE against the commercials as well, because it kind of looked like that's what they were trying to do. Now, the first matchup, the second hour, was for the TNA Women's Tag Team Championships, the Knockouts Tag Team Championships, with Sarita and Taylor Wilde versus Kong and Amada. Now, this was actually a pretty decent women's match, and I enjoyed this more out of the two women's matches. Well, the other women's match really wasn't that much of anything at all. This was actually a pretty good women's match. Hamada and Kong go over and become the new TNA Women's Tag Team Championships champions, and it felt like, they were just switching the two women's titles just for the sake of switching the women's titles, and switching titles or some titles just for the sake of switching them on, a live broadcast on, Monday nights, and kind of saying, hey, we're not only debuting a lot of people, we're switching titles as well. And earlier before this, you saw backstage, you saw the beautiful people there playing strip poker, and then Val Venus got involved. So Val Venus, I'm pretty sure all you're going to see is just him on this program. I don't think you're going to have to worry about seeing him anytime down the line. Now, the Nasty Boys were going around tonight on Impact as well. They were pretty much trashing the Dudley Boys locker room. So we'll have to probably see the Nasty Boys and Team 3D against each other, unfortunately. Hopefully that's the only time we'll have to see them. And I don't think anyone really cares about seeing that match against each other. Maybe, in the early 90s, and maybe like 95, 96, some people might have cared about seeing it. But in 2010, I don't think I think maybe there's one or two people that probably care about it, and I don't think TNA should even do that match at all. And you saw Orlando Jordan backstage at one point with the Pope D'Angelo De Niro. Then the next matchup was pretty much a squash match. Morgan and Hernandez squashed Dr. Stevie and Raven. Very quick match, only like 30 seconds. Then the next matchup was the Pope D'Angelo De Niro versus Desmond Wolfe, a.k.a. Nigel McGuinness. Now, a lot of people had problems with this match, mainly due to the fact that Desmond Wolfe pretty much got squashed in this match. This was a very quick match, short match. It was probably 3 to 4 minutes at best. And what they did against each other was very entertaining. I like, these two working against each other. This would have been a great match to see for like 20 to 25 minutes. I think these two could have put on an incredible match. And the Pope D'Angelo De Niro goes over with a roll-up on Desmond Wolfe, and Desmond Wolfe gets beat very quick. Now, a lot of people, you probably should expect this from Desmond Wolfe, because what the thing is, he was brought in so strong against the feud against Kurt Angle that he really had nowhere to go but down. So what TNA is going to have to do with him now, instead, they can't throw him in the main event. They can't do that. They need to build him up a little bit for that. So now they're going to kind of repackage him a little bit, build him back up, and slowly build him up to the level of, going to the main events. I think they'll do that. I don't think they're, I don't think they're going to stop using him or anything. I know some people are worried about after this match that they're not going to utilize him or do anything more with him in the future. I don't think you're going to have to worry about that. I think they're just going to slowly build him back up to that level. And didn't mind them, building and kind of pushing the Pope D'Angelo De Niro, because he is over with the crowd. He's good in the ring. He's great on the mic. And I think that's a character that I think I wouldn't mind seeing in the main event of TNA, because I think Elijah Burke is one of those talents. When he was working with WWE, WWE never gave him the push that he deserved, especially since not only was he a great worker, but he actually could talk on the mic as well. So didn't have a problem with this as much as some people did, especially considering I already knew Desmond Wolfe at some point was going to get this because he had nowhere to go but down. Then you saw an interesting match. This is kind of like a very quick match, but it was kind of an interesting match. It was the first time they ever took on each other, which was Samoa Joe versus Abyss, and it was a very quick match, a short match. It was, a lot of these matches on Impact were very short, other than the main event for the most part, and this was probably about 5 to 6 minutes at best. But I did enjoy what Samoa Joe and Abyss did against each other, and Samoa Joe looked pretty good here. It looks like he's going to be in line for being the next person to go against AJ Styles for the World Heavyweight Championship, especially since he's got the briefcase and the shot for the World Heavyweight Championship, and Samoa Joe goes over in that match. Very quick match, but it was actually enjoyable. Then the main event of the evening, which was great. It was AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Earlier in the night, Eric Bischoff made this match happen. Said, we're not going to wait till TNA Genesis to see this match. It's going to take place tonight, which was a great thing to happen. Now, some people will be like, why are they giving away a pay-per-view match? Because obviously with Genesis only being, 12 days away on pay-per-view, and they already got promos, and they already got ads for this pay-per-view, and they're most likely going to have AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle yet again for the pay-per-view, which I really don't have no problem with, because these two have so many great matches. I won't mind seeing them against each other yet again in less than 2 weeks against each other, or maybe do something else, throw something in there, maybe throw in Samoa Joe and make it a triple threat or something like that, because since you already pretty much gave the match away on Impact, you're going to have to do something to it, add someone to it, or, add some gimmick or stipulation to it, like a submission match, or, 2 out of 3 falls or something like that. But this was an incredible match. It lasted about 20, 21, maybe 22 minutes. It was very good. Early match of the year contender. I really enjoyed it. A lot of false finishes. That was the one thing with this match. It might have been a little bit too many false finishes. Now, they did the thing with the masked man coming out there attacking AJ Styles. Some people might say that hurt it a little bit, but I think you can look past that. He was only out there for, 5 to 10 seconds. Angle and AJ got him out of there, and that was the last you saw of him. That didn't really hurt it at all. Now, it's going to be interesting to see who that is under the mask. Now, is it Tomko like it was originally scheduled to be, or could it be the worst thing that it could be is Vince Russo? Hopefully it's not Vince Russo, but if it's not Tomko, it looks like it could possibly be Vince Russo, because just the way he kind of moves around stuff, who else could it really be? And it wouldn't surprise me if they have Russo get involved and have him be some type of on-screen character. Then after this, another thing that was going on during the night, Mick Foley was trying to get in the arena a lot. He was able to get in the arena at the end of the show, and he was looking for Hogan. He was looking for Bischoff. He was able to get to Bischoff's office, and then Sean Waltman, aka X-Pac, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash attack him. So Mick Foley gets attacked at the end of the show. Then Hogan comes in there and looks like, what are you guys doing? What's going on here? Like I said, make Hogan kind of a tweener. What side is he going to be on? That's going to be the running thing with Hogan. What side is he going to choose? Is he going to choose TNA, or is he going to choose these, old friends of his? So that's pretty much what they're going to do with Hogan. And during the night, the Motor City Machine Guns and Beer Money got beat down. So obviously that was easily, I'm pretty sure what that was. Obviously Scott Hall and Sean Waltman and Kevin Nash going around beating down everyone, and they're going to do something with that. Now, I thought TNA Impact was the better show. Now, obviously, some people are going to say, oh, it kind of lived a little too much off, the past stars or whatnot. But I think they did a pretty decent job of it, because I think we saw a good women's tag team match, a great main event. Even the 2 matches that were fairly short, this Desmond Wolfe and Pope D'Angelo Nero match was at least entertaining and enjoyable. To see Joe and Abyss for the first time seeing it was very quick. It was enjoyable. Now, the one thing that was bad about Impact was the first hour, but overall it was the better of the 2 shows. Now, on to Monday Night Raw. As far as Monday Night Raw, obviously the only things that were really good on the show was the Orton and Kingston match and the Bret Hart stuff. Now, the Bret Hart stuff, a lot of people have been praising it a lot, thought it was great. Now, I thought it was good, but I thought it could have been a little better. It was just a tad bit disappointing. Now, the beginning of the show saw Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in the ring and pretty much going back and forth with each other. Shawn Michaels at first pretty much saying that Bret Hart, you're at fault of what happened at Survivor Series 97. Then they made amends. They shook each other's hands. Then it looked like Shawn Michaels was going to super kick Bret Hart, but no, that didn't happen. So pretty much the door is shut with the whole Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels thing, mainly just due to the fact that they're an ability around Vince McMahon and Bret Hart, and Shawn Michaels is going to be in the match with Undertaker, so they kind of want to just close all that so Shawn Michaels can just do the stuff with Undertaker and don't have to focus on the Bret Hart stuff as well. And then the first matchup was a women's match with Maurice versus Brie Bella. This was nothing much at all. This was a first tournament match to decide the new women's champion because Melina is injured and she had to vacate the title, and Maurice wins this match. Nothing much at all. This match and pretty much ODB and Tara are probably about the same quality-wise, and just both of them were terrible. Nothing much enjoyable to see at all. Then the next matchup was for a shot at the United States Heavyweight title. It was MVP versus Carlito versus Jack Swagger versus Mark Henry. This was a decent match. Some good stuff in here. Kind of enjoyed it. MVP goes over, and MVP gets a shot at the United States Heavyweight title against The Miz in the future. Don't know if it's going to happen at the Royal Rumble or is it going to happen at a Monday Night Raw before the Rumble. Now, after this, they do DX versus Jericho. Now, this is pretty much the same match you've seen against each other several times before. It wasn't bad. Wasn't great. It was kind of in the line. It was at least watchable, I would say. I would say it was at least watchable. And the match comes when DX retains the title after Shawn Michaels super kicks Chris Jericho, and Triple H pins Chris Jericho for the win in the match with DX retaining the title. And they had to do the stupid stuff with horns while getting involved in the match, which that's one character I'm hoping sometime WWE just gets rid of because it's starting. It's been annoying for a long time. I don't know how long it's been annoying. It's been annoying for the whole entire 2009, and still is annoying in 2010, it looks like. Then the next matchup was Sheamus came out here, got on the mic, and Evan Bourne came out here. And this was actually kind of entertaining to see because what they did was Evan Bourne, if he could win this match, he would get a shot at the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble against Sheamus if he was able to defeat him in this match. And they pretty much had Evan Bourne getting a lot of offense, hit the shooting star, 1-2, looked like he was going to defeat Sheamus there and get a shot at the title at the Rumble. Then after that, Sheamus pretty much destroyed him and pretty much squashed him after that. But it was at least for that little moment. In that little moment, it looked like Evan Bourne was going to be able to take on Sheamus for the title at the Royal Rumble and able to defeat Sheamus, which was very good. I think the booking of that was kind of enjoyable, even though everyone knew Sheamus was going to end up destroying him. I think a lot of people, even smart fans, were watching that was like, whoa, this is kind of like, what are they going to do with Evan Bourne? It's kind of cool to see. Then the next matchup was Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston. This was a good match, not as good as their TLC match, mainly just because it wasn't given as much time, but it was still, this was a good match against each other. It was good to see that not only on TNA Impact that you had a great match with AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle. At the same time, you had a pretty good match on Raw as well with Orton and Kingston. Really, one of the highlights of Monday Night Raw was Orton and Kingston's match. Unfortunately, Orton goes over after blocking the Trouble in Paradise and hitting the RKO to Kofi Kingston. But I think what they're going to do with Kofi Kingston, I think they're going to have him be the one to win the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, then maybe do something where Orton has the title at one point, and then he cashes in the Money in the Bank against Randy Orton, where all it comes around full circle and Kofi Kingston defeats Randy Orton for the title. I think that could be a good way to do it, not only have him win the Money in the Bank, but have this whole feud with Randy Orton come around full circle with him defeating Randy Orton for the title at some point in the future. I think that would be something cool to see happen. Then after this was Bret Hart came out here again. This was him calling out Vince McMahon, confronting Vince McMahon. Pretty much Vince McMahon was trying to make amends with him. Both of them were pretty much let's let all this go. Let's have all this just end now. Just forget all about it and stuff. And then pretty much they're posing to the crowd. Then Vince McMahon kicks Bret Hart in the nuts. So obviously this is going to lead to something in the coming weeks of Bret Hart against Vince McMahon, something leading to a WrestleMania payoff, probably a brawl or something. And he's not going to have, a technical match or something. He's just going to have a brawl with Vince McMahon because of his health issues, all, the strokes he suffered. he really can't take any bumps at all, and it's going to be even hard for him just to go in there and just have a brawl with Vince McMahon. But I think it'd be at least the payoff could be pretty good. But I think before the payoff of it is going to get to the point where it's going to be like, okay, we've seen this every single week. Just come on to the payoff. Just come on, get to the payoff point of this. And I think some of it's going to be good, but I think some of it's going to just be like completely boring, and it's going to just drag out a little bit. But the Bret Hart stuff was good, and the Orton and Kingston match was pretty solid as well. But everything else was pretty much just the typical Monday Night Raw, which even during the main event was kind of, not the main event, but during the Bret Hart segment at the end with Vince McMahon, it was kind of interesting to see that some fans were chanting, "We want Hogan" and TNA. So obviously some fans, enough fans, at least some fans in that attendance knew about, Hogan being to TNA and TNA going on at the same time. And hopefully, this helps TNA's name grow a little bit, because I think this would be something I would like to see more often, is this Monday Night Wars feud against TNA versus WWE, because it was great to switch back between two wrestling programs at the same exact time. And it was great to, at this point, obviously this was only a one-time deal, but for the one-time deal with WWE versus TNA, it was kind of great to relive that, feeling of the Monday Night Wars with two wrestling programs side by side on, different networks, and, it was great to just see it. Now, obviously, some people have been saying, oh, TNA, they kind of live too much on the old stars. But the people that were saying that kind of been praising Bret Hart, which I think is kind of contradicted themselves, whereas Bret Hart's kind of living off old stuff as well. And that was what both shows were. I think they had some good, I think, TNA had better stuff, because I think the main event really was the thing that really helped TNA be the better show. And I think, the surprises and stuff with Jeff Hardy debuting, Ric Flair, and a lot of the other, familiar faces that evening was pretty good to see. Like I said, out of the two shows, the show I enjoyed the most was TNA Impact, and hopefully TNA just does some good stuff with this. They can really do some good stuff with Jeff Hardy and TNA, because he could really be that star TNA has desperately needed to propel him to the next level. Hogan is a big name, but Jeff Hardy in 2010 is the bigger of the marketable stars. So just want to come on here, give my thoughts on the Monday Night Wars from last night against WWE versus TNA. Monday Night Raw was pretty much the same typical Raw, but it was still, since you had another wrestling program, it was great to have two programs against each other, competing against each other for one night only. Hopefully this will be something, if TNA gets a good amount of ratings from this will be something they'll try, a couple other times this year, or maybe even try to get on there permanently, stay on Monday nights and go against Raw, because I think that's the only way we're going to see WWE improve. I think the only way we're going to see Monday Night Raw improve to the level that it needs to be is until they have any strong competition in Vince McMahon and company are actually worried about TNA. And I actually think Vince McMahon, he's not worried about TNA too much, but I think with his love-hate relationship between the years with him and Hogan, I think that's going to be the thing that's really going to make him try to, at some point, want to go against TNA a little bit and, prove that his organization is better than TNA because of his love-hate relationship with Hogan and kind of wanting to one-up Hogan. But I think that's going to be a little further down the line. I think really until we see some real competition, I think it's going to take some time for TNA to do that. Probably, another year or two, 2 to 3 years maybe, until we get to that level. But hopefully at some point we do get to that level. And yeah, that's it. Peace. And what they can draw for an organization, at least in my opinion. Now, the first hour of this Impact, now I forgot to say this at first, but the first hour of this Impact was pretty horrendous. It was pretty terrible. Now, the 2 hours that were pitted against Monday Night Raw were very good. I did enjoy those 2 hours. The first hour, I think they could have did a better job of, showcasing a product that was different than WWE and doing some things that will keep people's attention, because really, if there was another wrestling program on, I think some people might have switched and tuned to WWE Monday Night Raw. As bad as Raw has been, that was how bad the first hour was. And I'm coming on here to give my thoughts on the Monday Night Wars last night between WWE Raw versus TNA Impact, and which one of those shows did you enjoy the most? Out of the two shows, myself, I enjoyed TNA Impact just a little more than WWE Monday Night Raw. Well, not even just a little more than WWE Monday Night Raw. It was easily the better show of the two. Now, obviously, WWE, you could tell they weren't really even trying to put on that much of a superior show than TNA Impact. Now, this is going to be interesting. Like, if they do this a couple more times and WWE starts to get a little worried about TNA at some point down the line in the near future, it'd be interesting to see, what will WWE put on when they actually feel this was the worst decision to start this off with, not because it was still a silent match, but the ending of the match. This match ends in disqualification. So you start your program off with ending in a disqualification here. Homicide gets DQ'd. And then after this kind of helps save it a little bit. You see Jeff Hardy debut. And the only thing that could have been a little better here was Jeff Hardy's debut or re-debut with TNA. Should have been a little more better built up than what it was. It was pretty much Mike Today and Taz pretty much didn't make even a big deal about Jeff Hardy debuting for TNA, which doesn't make any sense at all, especially since Jeff Hardy, even though I'm not the biggest Jeff Hardy fan, I'll even admit Jeff Hardy is one of the biggest draws in wrestling today. Some people could argue that he's as marketable, if not sometimes more marketable than even John Cena. So TNA getting Jeff Hardy, this is a very big thing for TNA, and they definitely need to do a good job with this because Jeff Hardy could possibly be that star that TNA needs to catapult them to compete against WWE. Now, you got Hogan on here, obviously. Now, Hogan's name is obviously bigger than Jeff Hardy, but as far as marketability, as far as where they are now in 2010, Jeff Hardy is easily the bigger star out of the two as far as marketability. Like they got competition against each other now. TNA, I felt, did a good job on Monday night because I think they put on the better show of the two. And I think they did some stuff that a lot of people will be talking about for the rest of the week, whereas WWE, the Bret Hart stuff was good, but I thought it was, even myself, I thought it was a tad bit disappointing, even though a lot of people are raving about it. And I think it is one of the greatest things ever, which I didn't see that much in it. I thought it was decent at best. Now, let me get on to TNA Impact and kind of, do a quick run through of TNA Impact. Now, the beginning of the show started with a Steel Asylum match with 8 X Division competitors in there. And this match